This happens more often than you would think. We've mailed our proxy to shareholders ahead of our annual shareholders meeting when suddenly a director decides that they don't want to serve as a director anymore. They don't want to stand for re-election. Do we have to amend our proxy? Today on Zippy Point.
Quick Zips by Zippy Point.
Quick and dirty. I'm Brock Romanek and I'm a big fan of yous. No, you don't have to amend your proxy if you don't want to. You don't have to redeliver it to shareholders. That's the good news. And the good news is that there's only good news. You do have to file a Form 8K within 4 business days of the director resigning. And hopefully you got that resignation in writing, as I noted in my separate Vid-Guide about can a director resign for any reason, the link to which is beneath this video. If there's no disagreement between the director and the company, the 8K is filed under item 502B. And if there was a disagreement, the 8K is filed under item 502A with a copy of the resignation letter noting that there was a disagreement filed as an exhibit to the 8K. Perhaps a company will also issue a press release noting the director has resigned, but that's not too common. And perhaps the company will file a proxy supplement to note the director is not standing for re-election, that the votes cast for them won't be counted. Although that's not required, the director's departure shouldn't impact the disclosure regarding the remaining directors that are standing for re-election, and it's not likely to influence how shareholders would vote on that remaining slate. So here's an example of what a proxy supplement like that would look like. And then here's another example for you to peruse. So one odd quirk of the securities laws is that a Form 8K is not required if a director dies. So if a director dies after you mail the proxy, but before the annual meeting, the analysis for whether you have to amend the proxy is the same. But in this case, you actually don't have a Form 8K obligation. You don't have to file an 8K to announce that the director has died. Although some companies voluntarily file one to inform the market of the sad development. And of course, you could file a proxy supplement along the same lines as if the director had resigned. So here's an example of a proxy supplement noting a director's death. Of course, you then want to work it into your annual meeting script that a director's name and director nominee's name was on the ballot, but they're not standing for re-election. I recommend that you also state that you're not counting votes for the nominee. Then, of course, you wouldn't disclose the votes for that nominee either when you file your item 507 8K to report the final tally for all the agenda items that were on the ballot, including the vote totals for those nominees that did not resign. And looking for examples of 8Ks under 507 like this, it seems like many of the resignations of directors were timed so that the resignation letter usually has an effective date in it, and the resignation was timed so it fell close to the annual meeting date. Maybe it actually was on the annual meeting date. So then the resignation was reported on the same 8K when the voting results were disclosed under 507. So it would be a single 8K that's filed, one section noting that the director has resigned and another section providing the voting results of all the items that were on the ballot. And in this particular example, the votes were counted for that resigning director and included in the 8K. So that obviously could be done this way as well. But then here's another example where the votes were not tallied for the departing director. So I have a separate Vid-Guide about replacing a director nominee on the ballot if a director resigns or dies. That's not commonly done, but it may be permissible in certain circumstances. A link to that video is beneath this one. Anyways, let me know what you think.